Hey everybody, I'm recording this video today to not only inform my channel about what's going on, but to also ask for prayers and just support from you guys. Everything has changed in the last 48 hours, and I still can't believe that it's real and that this is happening, because it just feels like a bad dream or a bad movie with awful plot twists that are so unbelievable that you're like that could never happen, Anyway, so on Friday the 21st of March we got a phone call from my surrogate at 1 a.m. I had just laid down to go to bed, and she called me to say that she thinks her water broke. Let me paint the picture for you. We are 12 weeks. We are 28 weeks in one day at this point, and obviously that is horrifying to hear. So I'm like, okay, she described to me what was going on. It definitely sounds like it was her water and not, a mistake. And so she says, I'm gonna call my aunt and my mom. My aunt's gonna come be with my daughter, and my mom's gonna take me to the hospital. And this is the hospital that we had planned to have our normal delivery at, but that doesn't have a high-level NICU. So I assumed that they're either gonna say, oh, you just peed your pants and send her home, or she's gonna get transferred out if this is actually real life. How could it be real life? This doesn't happen. Okay. So she goes there, and I told her, okay, I have to call my grandma to come watch my kids, and then I will be like an hour and a half away, but my grandma lives like 40 minutes away. So I gave her the timeline, and she was like, okay, let me know when you're on your way, keep me posted. Fine. She comes, my grandma comes, and we leave. And on the way there, she texts me she calls me and says, so they're gonna get me an ultrasound, or they want to give me an ultrasound. They're giving me antibiotics and steroids and magnesium. And I'm thinking, well, they would only do that if you were in labor. So what? And she said, my water broke. They confirmed that it was amniotic fluid, and I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, well, all right. And she also said that they're going to be transferring her to another hospital. So I was like, well, do you want me to go to that hospital? Or in the hospital that she had mentioned is a really, really, really good hospital, and it's actually about 30 minutes closer to my house than this other one is. And so I was like, that would be so great. Like Florida is known for this particular hospital. And I was like, it's got this high level trauma unit and this high level NICU as well. And I was like, that would be great. Which one do you want me to go to? And she was like, I'll let you know, they still have to get the ambulance here, and it could be a couple hours. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just come to you then. So, and she also said they're only allowing one visitor. And I knew her mom was there, and I said, well, okay, I'll come in and we can switch out. Your mom can go to the car or leave or whatever. And I knew my husband was fully prepared to just stay in the car. He just wanted to be there. And I did not feel comfortable driving. And so we get there, and they did this whole they screened me. They did a temperature and asked me a bunch of questions, if I had been out of the country, if I knew anybody with the coronavirus, if I had a cold, blah, 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 all these things. And I was like, no, let me in. So they took me up to the floor, and she was there in bed, and the nurses are all in there. They've got the belly bands on the babies. The babies' heart rates are good. They're moving around like crazy. You can hear them kicking the monitors and stuff. And they were getting the reports sent over from our doctor, which it's all the same group, it's all the same company. So they were affiliated. They could see all her records and know that the babies, as of 2 days earlier, were breached. And so that's good information to know if you're whatever. She was not contracting, and her cervix is not open. So they call it closed, thick, and high. So it's it just means that completely your body is not reacting or progressing in any type of way. So that, I guess it's the opposite of thinned out and whatever, you get it. So anyway, I'm just in shock at this point. I'm trying so hard to just wrap my head around what is going on. And but the nurses are there, and they're giving her the medication. She's hooked up. She has 2 IVs in, and they then say, we're going to be sending you to, let's call this hospital Butterfly Hospital. I can't think of anything right now. And I was like, are you kidding? Because that is the hospital where I got sick at, where I had my son, and where they left the placenta inside of me, and where I ended up back at and had surgery after surgery, and was in the ICU there and all that stuff, and I just have these awful memories and feelings about it, and I know that like it's a very rare thing that happened to me, and that we can't really blame the hospital, we have to blame the doctor, but that doctor works at that hospital still, and I just was like, I can't imagine being in this hospital again. And I knew that if the babies were born then, I would have to be back in this hospital for every day for months. And so I'm like I'm just trying to go with the flow though, you know, and they do have a level 4 NICU, they said, and it's one of the best, and they are affiliated with the same group, like I was telling you. So like, we're gonna go to Butterfly Hospital, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. Let me, like, I can't, this can't be real. Like, this just can't be real. There's a pandemic right now, and my surrogate goes into labor, and we are only 28 weeks, it's twins, and we're going back to this traumatic experience for me. Like, if anything can stroke your PTSD, I feel like this is it, you know? So the ambulance comes, they give her the steroid shot, which basically would just strengthen the baby's lungs if they were born. And she would be getting another one in 24 hours if she needed it, you know, if they were still not on the out. And then they also gave her antibiotics, once again, just in case. And then they gave her magnesium, which is for neuroprotection. So if the babies are born, they have a lower risk of having cerebral palsy, protects their brain. And also the magnesium can also kind of slow labor or prevent-ish labor. You know, to a degree. It's not really used for that, but it's just like a side effect of it. So they're giving her all that stuff. The EMTs come, they load her up. We follow her to that hospital. And it is so weird, you guys, pulling into the same parking lot, going through the same entrance, and just being there was just so strange. It was so strange. So anyway, they do the same screening. And so not only can she only have one visitor, she can only have one visitor that's assigned to her. We can't swap out. It's not like her mom can come some of the time, I can come some of the time. One visitor, one support person is assigned, and that's it for the whole hospital stay, not for that day, not for whatever. So, and the only places where visitors are even allowed right now is labor and delivery and the NICU. And the rest of so there's a woman's hospital, like a building, and then in the same parking lot, there's an actual, like a regular hospital. And in that part of the hospital, there are no visitors allowed, period. So I'm just like grateful they're letting me in, you know, and they gave me this band that is only assigned, like if I don't, the numbers on this band are assigned to her and vice versa. So I'm only allowed to get in with this, and only one person can have this. We can't take it off, whatever. So, and they did the same screening, you know, took my temperature, asked me all the questions or whatever. And I went in and they had her hooked up again and everything. And I guess they had given her the wrong antibiotic at the other hospital, so they gave her the right one at this hospital. And at this point it's 5 a.m. or 5:30, and we, you know, talking to the nurses about like what's happening and what are we looking like here. The babies are still moving around like crazy. Finally at like 6:30 a.m. the hospitalist comes in and is like talking to me, and he's like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna order vaginal swabs, which basically tell if there's an infection, which could explain why her water broke. If there is an infection, that's very risky, and we would need to get the babies out. We're also going to order an ultrasound to see which baby's water broke and how much fluid is left, and you know, that kind of thing. So and they also wanted to swab again to see if this really was amniotic fluid, and which I thought they did at the other hospital, but I was like, okay, like there's still a question. Meanwhile, she's still constantly leaking, like it hasn't stopped, and she's not contracting at this point. They're not going to check her cervix again though, because the more you like mess with it, the more things can progress. And so okay, he leaves, we do all that, talk to him about it, you know, I like what's the plan, you know, what would be the plan either way. And he's like, we want to keep her pregnant as long as possible. If she isn't progressing, we're going to move her up to a high risk floor where she'll live until the babies are born. She is not leaving this hospital until the babies are here, which is wild, you guys. We are 28 weeks pregnant. This is wild. We are one day into our third trimester, and no one is prepared for this. And she can't have any, like, it's just me and her, you know, like nobody's allowed in the waiting room. No one's allowed in this hospital unless you are a patient or you are in the specific floor, and it's the one person. So okay, so they run all these tests. We see the ultrasound. Baby A is the one whose water broke. That's the boy. Obviously A means he's lowest down to the cervix, which isn't exactly great news, because if there is an infection, he's the most susceptible, because he's the one that's open for it. They are both still breech, which we confirmed, and there's no chance of him turning because he has no fluid left, hardly. They said it's 1.4, which is pretty low for the amount of fluid that's left. I don't know if that's liters or what, I don't know, milliliters, I'm not sure, but 1.4. And so they said like that's lower, but you know, it's fine, I guess. Like they weren't concerned about that number necessarily. Obviously the water broke because the girl, hers is like 5.5 or something like that. Like clearly it's him. So because of that, he cannot turn anymore. He has no room to. So they are breached and they are staying breached. So when these babies come, they're coming via C-section, he said. And I was like, okay. And that's not what she wanted, obviously. And you know, so she's exhausted. They will not let her eat. And I'm just sitting there with her and I wait for the ultrasound to be done. And then I, was like, I'm gonna go home and sleep for a little bit and like, you know, let me know what's going on like throughout the night, text me whenever you want. And she's like, okay. And at this point she's just hanging out, you know, like there's nothing's really going on. Like she feels fine. It's just this weird thing that's happening. And so I go home and I'm like, you know, I just lose it right when I get out to the car. My husband's been asleep in there the whole time and I wake him up and I just lost it. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. This is not supposed to happen. Like this is like, I can't, this is a bad dream. I can't wrap my head around this. So we go home, I lay in bed, I think I got 2 hours of sleep and then headed back to the hospital. And that was yesterday. You know, now it's the same day, but it's like actual daytime now. So I go back to the hospital and now she's having contractions and her contractions are every 4 to 6 minutes. And because she's not heavily pregnant, you know, like she's not full term, it doesn't feel the same way it would if you were full term in labor with like a singleton baby or whatever. It's not a tight, hard, dramatic contraction. She can feel them. They're like strong menstrual cramps, but the babies are so small and the one is so low and they're positioned so strangely. Like they're both breech, but they're like both on one side somehow, that it just feels odd. It doesn't feel like a normal labor. But she is technically, you know, laboring. They're not going to check her cervix, like I said, at this point, and they're still giving her the magnesium, and you'll have to excuse me. They're still giving her the magnesium, and they did give her the right antibiotic at this point, and they still haven't allowed her to eat or anything. And I think it's like 9:30 a.m. or 10 a.m. at this point, maybe even 11. I can't remember. But basically she's just laying there in bed and they've got her like on one side and then they're moving her back to the other side. And like I said, it's not a dramatic thing where it's like, oh, you know, like, oh, but she's clearly uncomfortable and you can see the contractions this has been for hours, I guess. And it kept happening for hours. So another doctor's there at this point. It's like the daytime doctor. And I'm talking to her about like, what are we doing? You know, like, what's the plan? And she said, you know, we're going to stop the magnesium, which, like I said, they're only giving her for neuroprotection at this point. They're stopping that at 3:30 a.m., which would have been 3:30 this morning. So right now it's Sunday. As I'm filming this and as I'm posting it, it'll be Sunday. And that's 3:30 this morning. They're going to stop it and they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if she's going to continue to labor or if it's going to kind of taper off. They got the swabs back. There was no infection that they saw or that they could see, which is good. And there really is no reason for this. We don't know what happened or why. So, but they did make it very clear that like, this is it. Like we are not leaving until these babies are out, basically, but we want to keep her pregnant as long as possible. So, and as long as possible means 34 weeks. They won't let her go past 34 weeks, but it would be a miracle if we made it to 34 weeks too. So, basically, I go home for the evening while she's contracting, but she's really tired. I think I left at 10 p.m. She's exhausted. They still haven't fed her. She's like cranky because of it, of course, like anybody would be. And I'm like, just please let me know what's going on. They're waking her every hour to take her temperature. So I'm like, I'm just going to text you every couple hours. And when I know that they're in there, because they're doing it at like a certain time, and that you can respond and just like, give me one word. Let me know how things are going. And the big answer is if at 3:30, when they take her off the magnesium, is she then going to continue to go into labor, right? So, okay. I go to sleep. I'm texting her all the time. I'm waking up thinking I heard something on my phone. Didn't, you know. I get a text from her that's like all jumbled and it's like, something about they didn't stop the magnesium, couldn't find the doctor order, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so I'll just leave it be. It sounds like it's fine. So I finally text her at 6:30 a.m. and I'm like, what's going on? She didn't respond. I text her at 7:30 a.m. What's going on? And I'm like, let me just call. So I call down there to the nurse's station and I'm like, can I talk to blank's nurse? And I told them who I was and they were like, yeah. They transferred me to her and she's like, hi, what can I help you with? And I was like, hi, I'm just calling to see how the night went for her. And I told her who I was and I just wanted to get an update. And she's like, oh, I can't really tell you anything. And I was like, no, you can. I'm on all the HIPAA paperwork. I'm the mother of the babies. You guys have all of our contracts and our legal forms from the lawyer. Like, yes, you can. Hi, what's going on? And she's like, oh, she's right here asleep. I can wake her up and give you the phone. I'm like, no, sweetheart. If I wanted to call her, I would have called her. I'm talking to you because I want, like, tell me. And she's like, okay, here she is. And like, I get her on the phone and she's like exhausted. She's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I didn't want them to wake you up. I'm just calling to get an update. And she's like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I'm contracting. I was sleeping. And I was like, I'm sorry. I said, did they stop the magnesium? She said, no. And I was like, why? She's like, they don't have a doctor's order. And I'm like, bull. That's not true because I was there. I was on the floor when the doctor was sitting at the nurse's station telling her and then like entering it in, but whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, like what's going on? Then she's like, I don't know, the doctor hasn't come yet. And like, I don't know. And then she said like, this nurse just doesn't know who you are. And that's why she's whatever. And I was like, she's about to find out who I am. So I was like, I'll be there soon. It's an hour away, whatever. So I get in the car and I'm driving over there and then she calls me and she's like, okay, they just stopped the magnesium and they are taking out my catheter and she had like leg compression things on. They took those off. She said they're transferring me to the high risk floor and that's where I'll be. And I was like, oh my goodness. Well, I'm almost there. So I'm like pulling in the parking lot. I get up there and I'm sitting there with her. This is just a couple hours ago at this point. I'm sitting there with her and they're saying like, yes, we're gonna move her up to the high risk floor. I talked to the nurse. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I couldn't give you information. Now here's her code so you can call. Like I had my lawyer call right away and I was like, talk to whoever you need to talk to because this isn't happening again. This is the last time this is happening. And so they, she did that, I guess, and like scare them or whatever, which is probably good so that I didn't have to. And so, like I said, talking to my surrogate and just like, we're just trying to like stay positive. And I'm like telling her how, every day I'll come bring you, cause she can have like her clothes. It's almost like a hotel where it, like sort of like, it's a floor where like she can get up and shower. She can wear her own clothes. She can go to the bathroom, she can bring stuff from home. She can, it's very like, like an efficiency where she would stay and just live until the babies are born. And they would monitor the babies only 20 minutes every shift. So every 12 hours, they'll monitor them just to make sure they're okay. They're not, like I said, they're not going to check her cervix or anything. They're going to keep monitoring her, make sure she doesn't get a temperature, still do blood work. The doctor's still going to come in daily, but it's much more like free and you just kind of are on bed rest and there. So, which sounds fine to me. That sounds like that means she's stable and everything's okay. So we're sitting in there and she's so hungry still. So now this is like 36 hours or something. She hasn't eaten and she feels crappy, of course. And just from that, but she doesn't feel any contractions. Like it seems like they just went away, but they had just pulled her off of magnesium this morning. So it's only been like 45 minutes at this point when I'm there. And so we don't know what's going to happen at this point. And so the nurse comes in and was like, I'm going to go get the wheelchair. They secured her a room and I'll be back in about 20 minutes to get her and move her up. And I'm like, fine. So we're trying to talk about it. We're getting like excited that everything seems to be stabling out. And I'm like, I'm going to bring you, because even though everything that's going on right now, they can still have food delivered if that's something that she was comfortable with. I know with the coronavirus, everyone has their own opinions about that, but they could bring it and I could go get it in the lobby and bring it up. And I was like, I'm going to get you your clothes. I'm going to get you, I'll bring you my iPad and put some Audible books on there for you. And then, it's going to be so fun. Like think of this as a vacation. I know you're going to miss your daughter, but this is a good opportunity. There's a pandemic right now. Like you don't want to be out there anyway. Like this is good. Okay. This is where it really gets insane. They come back up with the wheelchair and the nurse is like, oh, so the hospital just changed the policy and she can't have any visitors. None, not one. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you saying to me right now? So you're expecting this woman to be living at this hospital for 6 weeks in one room and have nobody that she knows to come see her or speak to her in person? Like, how am I supposed to get her clothes? We just want her in this nasty hospital gown with nothing to make her comfortable all this time? Are you kidding? And they're like, sorry. And so I'm like, you need to call that floor right now and ask if I can at least drop some stuff off and have someone come down and get it. So she's like, okay. So they did that. And they're like, yeah, we can come down and transport stuff up or whatever. And so I'm like, and now Georgia is crying. And I don't blame her, honestly. Like, I don't blame her. This is awful. And, you know, it's like, it's unreal. It's unreal that this is happening. Absolutely mind-blowingly unreal. This whole thing is crazy. Like this, it's just like one of those situations where you're like, this is not happening. There's no way. It's just been 48 hours at this point, and I still can't believe that this is real life. I can't believe it. And okay, so they, you know, she's scared to death. She's crying, I'm crying, and they're like, we're so sorry, you know, and at this point, like, she's sitting there with a wheelchair, like, we have to go, you know, like, your room's ready. And so we like load her up, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm gonna get you whatever you need, it's fine, and it's gonna be good, you know, we just need to think positive, you know, I'm trying to like be whatever. And she's like also trying to do the same thing, and then here we are. So the plan now is that she just hangs out there until she goes into labor or whatever. So if she does go back into labor or progresses at all, they'll move her back to labor and delivery or take her directly for a C-section. And at that point, I'll be allowed to come to the hospital again. But this is the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. I can't believe that it's real. We do have a couple good things on our side. You know, the babies are over 3 pounds each, which is good, but that doesn't make them any more developed than any other baby out there. You know, they're very big. They're both 90th percentile or over, and that's good and all, but they still aren't any more developed than any other 28-week babies would be. I talked to neonatology, which they will go to the NICU regardless, I'm sure. I mean, even if they make it to 34 weeks, I'm sure they'll still do some NICU time. And they told me like what to expect, and that is just so scary. They told me what the risks are. I just have so many feelings. Did I do this because I was being selfish and transferred 2 embryos? Would this have been different if it was 1? Would they have, you know, I don't know, you can't help but think that like, this is, everything is unreal right now anyway, because of what's going on with this virus and this pandemic, but then this is happening, and it's like, what? Like, I can't even, I know that they're doing this for a reason and that they're trying to protect her and protect my babies. I get that. And I'm not challenging that, but I'm just hurting so badly. I just want to be with them, and I just want to be with her, and I want to be there. I want to be ready. So we're ready at any moment. My mother-in-law has a house in Tampa, and we'll go there, and it's only 10 minutes from the hospital. So at whatever point that becomes necessary, that's what we'll do. And I'm just trying to like, I guess, start with wrapping my head around it, and then I guess staying positive about it. But I'm really, really, really discouraged and sick about it, and just, I don't know. And I just really need you guys to pray. We don't have anything ready for these babies other than what you see here. We don't have formula, we don't have diapers, and now they're not shipping any of that stuff, and people have hoarded it. And I know that they won't even go home for like 2 months, but is that gonna change between now and then? Like, are they suddenly gonna like be able to ship things and produce things again? Because currently, like, people, like, stores around here can't get diapers, they're not getting formula, they're not whatever, and it'll be a special formula called NeoSure, which is for preemies. And I don't even really have newborn clothes at all. And like, will I be able to get that? I can't go out to a store and get anything, you know. And like, our baby shower was supposed to be next weekend, and obviously that's not happening. I have a full registry full of stuff that I don't know if they're going to be able to ship. I mean, I think they're shipping right now, but it only seems to be getting less and less and less, you know. And they're only shipping essentials, and you know, it's taking weeks and weeks, which I don't know. There's so much uncertainty, and my heart is so heavy, and I'm trying to trust God and know that there's a plan for this, and that He's got all this under control, and this isn't a surprise to Him, but it was certainly a surprise to me, and it still remains a surprise to me. So if you guys could just really keep us in your thoughts and prayers, and I'll keep you updated. Thanks for watching.